The question before this Congress is whether we're going to save the Civil Rights Division or we're going to destroy it. And I want to step back just a moment. The Civil Rights Division is a crown jewel in the Department of Justice of the United States of America. It was founded in 1957. It was founded by a Republican president, Dwight D. Eisenhower. It was when we were beginning to come out of the dark days of legalized discrimination, the Jim Crow laws in the South, lynchings, denial of voting rights, discrimination in housing. The Congress began slowly to address this with laws. The Civil Rights Division in the Department of Justice, in a very turbulent time, had the responsibility to enforce the laws of the Congress that were passed by Congress, not the prerogatives of the president. And it did extraordinary work then, as it is doing now. They investigated assassinations of Martin Luther King, Medgar Evers. They brought landmark cases to desegregate school districts in the South against bitter opposition to allow the decision that separate and equal would not stand. It also took the lead in making voting a reality for folks who couldn't vote. You know, Mr. Chairman, I began my career in, I guess it's in politics, because of the civil rights era. I went to Chicago and was a community organizer, and I was shocked as a young man to see that black folks in the west side of Chicago and Lawndale who had two jobs, who were struggling to pay their bills, who were looking to make their schools better, they couldn't buy a house and get a mortgage. It was legal for the banks to deny them a mortgage. It was legal for the Veteran Affairs Department to deny folks who served as soldiers in World War II to get a VA guarantee. It was legal under the Illinois law to evict folks who were paying on contract to buy a home. But if they missed a payment after 10 years because somebody got sick or you got laid off from your job, legally they could have their entire house taken back and have no equity. And it was Civil Rights Division folks who were in there fighting for the rights of those Americans. That battle continues. And that's what we're going to be testifying about today. But the most important thing that we have to remember is that there was a congressional responsibility to establish laws about what rights individuals had, regardless of their race, their gender, their sexual orientation. And those were the laws that were enforced by the Department of Justice through the Civil Rights Division. And I am so indebted to those lawyers who made a decision, oftentimes to say no to a career on Wall Street or K Street or Market Street in San Francisco, and to be here in the Justice Department to advocate and represent the rights of citizens as those were defined by the Congress of the United States. It's a new day. And our witness here is going to testify. I look forward to hearing what her testimony is. But there's a profound difference in the Justice Department today than there was the day before the election. And that is the new policy directives that are being issued to DOJ attorneys is the zealous and faithful pursuit of, quote, the priorities of the president. No, it's the priorities of the Constitution. It's the priorities of the legislation passed by Congress. It is not the priorities of any person, even if that person is the President of the United States. That is not what the job of the Justice Department is to do. So today, Mr. Chairman, I so appreciate your statement. You're engaging this issue, but I'm going to have to say we're going to have some disagreement along the way. Right. Thank you. I yield back.
During a Judiciary Subcommittee hearing, Representative Welch spoke passionately about what he described as a critical moment for the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Division. He began by thanking the chairman for convening the hearing and acknowledging the profound nature of the questions being debated. According to Welch, The central issue before Congress is whether the nation will continue to protect the Civil Rights Division or allow it to be undermined. He reflected on the history of the division, calling it a crown jewel of the Justice Department. Established in 1957 under President Dwight D. Eisenhower, it emerged during a period when the United States was beginning to confront the dark legacy of legalized discrimination, Jim Crow laws, racial segregation, voter suppression, and housing inequality. Welch reminded his colleagues that the division was tasked with enforcing laws passed by Congress, not serving the political interests of the president, and that its mission was rooted in justice and equality. He recounted the division's historic contributions, including investigating the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Medgar Evers, and bringing landmark cases to end school segregation in the South. These efforts helped affirm the principle that separate but equal could not stand and paved the way for real progress in civil rights. The division also played a central role in securing voting rights for Americans who had long been denied that fundamental freedom. Welch shared personal memories from his early days as a community organizer in Chicago during the civil rights era. He described witnessing how black families, even those working multiple jobs, were routinely denied mortgages, veterans' benefits, and fair housing opportunities. Under state laws at the time, families buying homes on contract could lose everything after years of payments if they missed just one due to illness or job loss. The Civil Rights Division, he said, stood up for those citizens and fought to correct such injustices. He emphasized that the division's attorneys often chose public service over lucrative private careers, dedicating themselves to defending the rights of all Americans as defined by congressional law. Welch contrasted that legacy with what he described as a troubling shift within the Justice Department under new leadership, where policy directives now emphasize serving the priorities of the president rather than upholding the Constitution and enforcing the laws established by Congress. Closing his remarks, Welch expressed gratitude to the chairman for holding the hearing but acknowledged that there would likely be disagreements as the discussion continued. He urged his colleagues to remember the original purpose of the Civil Rights Division, to protect every citizen's rights, regardless of race, gender, or background, and to ensure that the Justice Department remains faithful to the Constitution, not political influence.